We're back for our daily college basketball best bets here on Tuesday, January 27th. We've got college basketball all day long today with games moved up due to weather and, of course, some more late night action as well in the Mountain West Conference. So, again, basketball all day long. We've got you covered all day long. And, folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Again, yesterday, limited slate of games. It is what it is. BYU, I appreciated the comeback. I thought they were going to pull it off because every little thing seemed to go their way in the final 2 minutes of that game. I just have one question. Why is Robert Wright taking the game-winning shot? He got a look. Obviously, the shot got blocked. Was it a foul? Was it not? It probably wasn't. I don't know. It's just, you got AJ DeBonsta on your team. You can say, well, DeBonsta was 6 for 24 from the field. Yeah, Robert Wright went 3 for 16 from the field. Again, if Richie Saunders is on the court and he didn't foul out, that's probably the guy you want. But why isn't the potential number 1 overall pick in the draft not taking the shot to win the game down by 1 against the number 1 team, undefeated team in the country? That's just my point there. Whatever. Again, Arizona's really good. BYU found their way back in that game by hook or by crook. Regardless, though, Arizona gets the victory. It is what it is with that one. No shout out to Ohio State and Florida A&M, both of which are up big at halftime. Florida A&M's case, they lose the game outright. Ohio State's up a massive number, and they find a way to only win by 6 points. Somehow, someway, South Carolina State's the only team that turns out for us yesterday, which we had a whole segment for about a month where we picked against them regardless of who they played, and they came through yesterday. So shout out to SC State winning at home against Delaware State. We had a game canceled between Wagner and Long Island, so it is what it is. On now to the Tuesday games, folks. Again, hit that subscribe button down below for more. College basketball best bets obviously are now. NBA best bets later today. We might have some hockey at the end of that video as well, too. We're perfect so far in the year on NHL. Also, on Greedo Plays MMA, our UFC 325 predictions. Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopez this weekend from Australia. Make sure you go check out Greedo Plays MMA, linked in the description down below. Go subscribe over there. Okay, on to the first now of our 5 best bets. We're going to get things going early today. 11 a.m. spot in the SWAC, as we've got an even money game between the Alabama State Hornets and the Texas Southern Tigers. Give me the Tigers at home to win the basketball game at minus 110. They opened as I believe plus 105. Since obviously the outlines have opened, the Tigers are now around minus 110. Again, we'll see how that ends up by the time this video is released. But as of 1 a.m., Texas Southern is at minus 110. I like the Tigers at home. I think they're the better team, and I like them at home in the spot again, particularly over Alabama State. Texas Southern 3-4 in the SWAC conference this year. Alabama State 3-3 in the SWAC conference this year. But look at Texas Southern's recent games. They've been able to win at home. Home victories against Alabama A&M and, well, the Delta Devils of Mississippi Valley State. But I do believe that Alabama A&M victory at home is more than encouraging. The Bulldogs this year are another middling squad in the SWAC, and Texas Southern was able to go out and beat them over the weekend by 15 points, 89-74 win again for Texas Southern. Prior to that, a competitive loss at Jackson State. Jackson State, I guess, still has something left in the tank after their win yesterday, obviously at Florida A&M. Prior to that, for Texas Southern, a road win at Alcorn, a win over Mississippi Valley State. Don't love a home loss to Arkansas Pine Bluff, but it's all about how you're playing recently in college basketball, and Texas Southern coming into this game winners in 3 out of their last 4. As for the Alabama State Hornets, they have lost 3 out of their last 5 games, losing at Arkansas Pine Bluff, losing at home to Jackson State, beating Alcorn at home, losing Alabama A&M at home, and then going to Prairie View on the road and winning. Again, just this isn't how sports works all the time. It's not how college basketball works, but I do think it's important to say Alabama State did lose at home to Alabama A&M, while Texas Southern was able to beat Alabama A&M at home. So there is a very recent common opponent. Obviously, both these teams played Alcorn, and they both beat Alcorn State. The very basic common opponent between these two teams is Alabama A&M, and Texas Southern's coming off a 15-point win against them, and Alabama State had a home game against the Bulldogs. I get an interstate matchup to Alabama teams, but they did lose the game by 4. And Texas Southern's game, they're down early against the Bulldogs. They go down by 10 points at the end of the first half. That's a first half dominated for the most part by Alabama A&M, who were favorites in that game on the road. And Texas Southern in the second half just comes out firing as the Tigers score 57 points in the second half of that basketball game against Alabama A&M. Surprisingly, I will say, going out there and picking up the victory. I mean, there was a point in time, I think it's like 12 minutes left in that game. The Bulldogs are still up by 12 points. Texas Southern goes on their big run, again, scoring 57 in total in that second half. And that's what they're capable of doing, high-scoring games. So you can say the same thing about Alabama State, right? They have their games against Prairie View where they scored 95. They did score 89 against Mississippi Valley State, 81 against Alcorn State. So I will say they're capable of high-scoring games as well. But I like the team at home in this spot. I do quite a bit. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Alabama State was part of that big point shaving, I guess, I don't know if it's a lawsuit or just investigation. I just want to put that out there. Ever since that has happened, we have tried betting on 2 teams that were part of that lawsuit, and they both lost. So I just want to put that out there. Just want to put that out there. Again, Alabama State, I believe, was the only SWAC team included out of, yes, the 17 teams listed in terms of, or I guess, involved in the point shaving scandal, scheme, whatever you want to call it. Again, is that a massive factor in this game? Likely not, but I just want to put that out there. Anyways, I do like the Tigers, though. I like what they've been doing recently. Leading scorer for this team at Tri Hoopstead, averaging 15.5 points per game and 9 boards per game for the Tigers. He's been pretty good recently. How about 23 and 15 in that game against Jackson State? It was an L, but again, he goes out there and puts up 23 and 15, 17 and 6 in his last outing against Alabama A&M. This is the best rebounder on the team, obviously. This is the best big on the team, and he scores as well. 6'7" senior out of Mount Vernon, New York. First year with the Tigers, played 2 years over with Maryland Eastern Shore, who apparently might win the MEAC right now. Weird. And last season, playing for UTA, did Troy Hoopstead. Bryce Roberts averages 13. Alex Anderson as well averages 11 for the Tigers. As for Alabama State, their leading scorer is Ajon Anderson. Anderson averages 18 points per game for this team. Just put up 19 against Prairie View in his senior year. This is their point guard. Played at Utah Tech. Transferred to Queens last season. Now, obviously, has ended up here with the Hornets. It's going to be a lot of Ajon Anderson and Micah Simpson. Anderson, again, averaging 18 points per game. Micah Simpson, who is their other guard. They're both 6'2". They both kind of operate as ones. Micah Simpson, averaging 15 points per game. He is a senior as well. Just put up 23 in the Prairie View victory on the road. Did, I believe, the JUCO product and transfer again in Simpson. Ultimately, though, when I look at the spot, early morning game, or I guess can't call it a morning game, early afternoon game, 1 o'clock local time in Texas, I think the Tigers get it done. They're at home. These two teams should be fairly competitive. They both kind of do the same thing. They can score, again, with Hoopstead, with Roberts and Anderson for Texas Southern, with Ajon Anderson and Micah Simpson over for the Hornets. I think it should be a fairly high-scoring game, but again, momentum is a real thing in college basketball, and look at Texas Southern's last victory. I mean, backs against the wall against Alabama A&M on your own home court, something that Alabama State failed to do was beat the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. What does Texas Southern do? Yeah, they're down 12 points with 12 minutes to go, less than 12 minutes to go, and they end up winning the game and in total putting up 57 points on Alabama A&M in just the second half. On top of that as well, games at Texas Southern, and I do believe the Tigers are going to find a way to win this game. So I'm going to go with Texas Southern. Yes, this is a 5-13 team, but at the same time, Alabama State 5-13 as well. It's not, 6-13. I apologize because their win against Alcorn, not the highest level Prairie View, not the highest level of basketball, sure, but again, this is what happens in the SWAC. I like Texas Southern a lot more than I do Alabama State in this spot. They opened as underdogs. They're now at even. We'll see again what the odds will be out by the time this video is released. Public's on Texas Southern. Does that matter all that much? No, but I do believe the right play is the Tigers at home. Give me Texas Southern -110 to beat the Alabama State Hornets. On now to our second best bet of the video, we go to 3 o'clock in the ACC as the Wake Forest Demon Deacons take on the Pittsburgh Panthers. Okay, I might be missing something here. I don't know how Wake Forest doesn't win this game. Okay, I know, home court advantage is a real thing. Wake Forest is coming on up from North Carolina over to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I get it. Nobody goes to Pitt Panthers basketball games. There's going to be nobody in the crowd. Their head coach just, from what I've seen from reports, I haven't seen the actual interview, I will be honest with you, but I've read at least, Pittsburgh's head coach was accusing the fans of being the reason why they're losing. Something along the lines of that. I don't think he directly said, our fans and the fact that we don't have a student section's why we're losing, but he kind of put some of the blame on the fact that there wasn't a home court advantage at Pitt coming off of their last game and a home loss to North Carolina State. Now, Pitt had their moments. It was a competitive first half, and they were winning in the second half as well, but NC State went on a big run in the final 6 minutes of the basketball game, ultimately winning it for the Wolfpack in a game in which really nobody showed up on a Saturday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was a Saturday afternoon. What crowd can we expect on a Tuesday night in the cold? I don't think so. Obviously, I know the arena's indoors, but still, you gotta walk to the arena, park your car. You get the point I'm going with here. Pittsburgh's god-awful. They're 1-6 so far in the conference. Coming off 3 consecutive losses to Louisville at home by 41 points, a Boston College loss on the road by 3, and a North Carolina State loss at home by 9 points. Although Wake Forest may not be the best record team, and I understand, again, the record's ultimately the only thing that matters, look at the games that they've been playing, though. They've been playing competitive ball games. The Duke game, they lose by 21 points. Wake fights in that game. Again, they don't, they're not that competitive they're competitive for the first 17 minutes of that basketball game, and then the Blue Devils pull away. But I didn't mind the performance out of Wake, and I haven't minded what the Demon Deacons have done all year long. A home loss to SMU by 12 points, okay. You go to Tallahassee, you beat Florida State. They went to Chapel Hill, only lost by 3 points to North Carolina. They've played competitive games on the road this year. They have 2 victories in the ACC with the aforementioned win in Tallahassee against Florida State and another victory at home against the Virginia Tech Hokies. So again, the past and history and whatnot between these two teams, or I guess just what these teams have done so far in the year, favors Wake Forest. Again, I don't want to get too far into a non-conference schedule because ultimately it just doesn't matter anymore. We're so removed from non-con ball at this point. If it matters, again, Pittsburgh did beat Ohio State. They did beat Penn State in non-conference play. Wake Forest, though, did play a 1-point game against Michigan where they lost. They beat West Virginia. West Virginia's not a tough opponent to beat, I will say. Regardless, though, right, Wake Forest, I do think played slightly better in the non-conference schedule. And again, Wake Forest not the toughest to beat. Yeah, Wake Forest did beat Pittsburgh by like 30 points. So again, Wake victories over West Virginia in non-con play. Memphis, competitive game against Memphis, but again, Michigan. Ultimately, though, and a 1-point loss to Texas Tech too. How could I forget about that? Ultimately, the only thing that matters is the ACC play so far, and I do favor Wake Forest more. On top of that, style of play is a big thing. As long as Wake Forest plays their style of game stylistically, they match up really well with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh struggles to score. Wake Forest doesn't. I mean, this is as simple as looking at how both these teams play and the personnel on both teams. Everything to me really favors Wake Forest. Just when I look at the game, when I look at the teams, when I watch these teams, I do believe Wake Forest is well equipped to win this basketball game. I understand the game's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I don't believe home court's going to play too big of a factor here because, again, it's a Tuesday night in Pittsburgh. The fan base is already gone. I mean, just go look on Pitt Basketball's Twitter page, and you'll realize how gone this fan base is. And I understand Wake Forest, may not be, the top of the bill in terms of fan bases either right now because they haven't been very good this season. I get it. They're on the road, doesn't matter. I mean, there's going to be a, ghost crowd for Pittsburgh at home, at least in their student section, and just, again, in the building, I would assume. Again, the fan base is gone. Coach hasn't been too kind to their fan base from what I've seen. I like Wake in this spot. And again, when we look at personnel, look at Wake Forest, there are guys who score for Wake, for Pittsburgh. I mean, Brandon Cummings, Barry Dunning, there's players, but is it consistent scoring? Not really. Your leading scorer, Brandon Cummings, just dropped 9 points against NC State on 27% shooting. He's been an awful shooter in his last 3 games. I can't expect anything from this team. Pitt's leading scorer had 11, 11, and 9 in his last 3 outings. Wake Forest, led by Juke Harris, averages 21 points per game. And the run Juke Harris is on right now, he by far is the best player on the court. And by far, he's the most consistent player, the most reliable player, and the best scorer on the court. Last 5 games for Juke Harris. 6'7" sophomore guard for Wake Forest. How about 28 points against Miami? 28 points against North Carolina. Only 15 against Florida State. It's actually the worst game he's had in their last 5, and they won, but whatever, low-scoring game in Tallahassee. 27 points against SMU, 23 points against Duke. This is a player who can launch it from beyond the arc. How about 5 for 9 from the 3 against Duke, 5 for 7 from 3 against Southern Methodist, and gets to the free throw line at will. Potential of double-digit free throws per game out of Juke Harris. By far the best scorer and best player on the court. And it's not like they just have him. Miles Coven averages 12.5. Travion Spillers is averaging a 12, I believe, this season as well. Nate Calmes is on this team, too. Senior guard, obviously, played at Wazoo last year. Got to watch him play in Santa Clara last season against, obviously, the Broncos, where Santa Clara blew this team out. But regardless, Calmes, former Lamar player, then went to UW, then to Wazoo, obviously now at Wake. There are players on this team. And by the way, Calmes just dropped 28 a couple games ago against North Carolina. I like Wake Forest a lot. I like Wake Forest a lot in this spot. They're going to score. Can I rely on Pittsburgh to score the basketball? That's a no. I can't rely on it, even at home. I just don't think this line should be where it's at. I don't understand why Wake's an underdog here. Just look at style of play and consider, okay, yeah, Pitt's at home and nobody's going to be there. I think, again, both these teams are desperate, sure. I think Pitt is done, though. From everything we have seen in the last week or so at Pittsburgh, I'm going to go Wake Forest. I think the Demon Deacons can go out here and just outscore this team. Obviously, that's stating the obvious, but I'm going to be going with the Wake Forest Demon Deacons winning the game on the road in Pitt. Rematch of that ACC championship game where Kenny Pickett faked the slide. Remember that? I know it's a different sport, but still. Plus 105 for Wake Forest on the road to beat Pittsburgh. On to our third best bet of the video. You knew we had to include it. Biggest game of the day. Back-to-back days of huge basketball games. Yesterday, Brigham Young versus Arizona. Today, undefeated Nebraska goes on the road to take on Michigan. And also, by the way, another undefeated team plays today. Not going to be covering into the video, but shout out to the Miami of Ohio Redhawks, who are now 24 in the country. They're going up in the world. Miami of Ohio, undefeated, plays UMass today. They're 9.5-point favorites. I don't feel comfortable playing that line. I thought about it, but I'm like, every team in the MAC is going to give it their absolute all against Miami of Ohio right now, to the point where I think the Redhawks are going to continue to win, but these games might be more competitive because everyone knows about Miami of Ohio now. Anyways, but again, if you're going to play that team, you got to be able to score 100 points, at least 90. Anyways, Nebraska versus Michigan. Okay, I don't think this line should be 10.5. Open at 9.5. I was thinking initially this was going to be at about 7.5, 6.5, and yet here we are. The Nebraska Cornhuskers go on the road to take on the Michigan Wolverines. Again, as weird as it sounds for Miami of Ohio to be undefeated, I guess it kind of makes sense. They just got hot at the mid-major level. Nebraska's undefeated in basketball. It's really weird. Nebraska is 20-0. 3 teams left in the country that are undefeated. Again, it's Nebraska, it's Arizona, and it's the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. I'm taking Nebraska to cover. I think the undefeated team can stay afloat tonight in terms of the spread. Will they win the game outright? I don't think so. There's a reason they're this big of an underdog at plus 470. Again, keeping the game close? Yes. I think they can keep this to single digits for most of the basketball game. This is a good Nebraska team. Okay, and they really still are not getting the respect they deserve. Number 5 in the country, I'd argue they should be higher than number 5 in the country. Obviously, Arizona at 1, UConn 2, Michigan 3, Duke 4. I'd argue maybe they should be above Duke. I know, again, if Duke and Nebraska played, we'd probably all pick Duke, but body of work and the resume so far this year, to me, it favors Nebraska. They haven't lost a basketball game yet this year, and if you are under the belief that they could win outright tonight, well, yeah, do look at the Illinois game. Illinois is really good. We saw that over at Mackey earlier, or I guess just a couple days ago. Nebraska went in there and beat them. Again, it's more difficult to go to Michigan. I 100% understand. Still, though, Nebraska has gone on the road this year and won a big Big Ten game against the Illinois Fighting Illini. So Nebraska, 20-0 overall, 9-0 currently in the Big Ten. Victories over Wisconsin, Illinois on the road, Michigan State by 3 points at home, at Ohio State where they were dogs, in Assembly Hall at Bloomington by 6 points. Again, I know Indiana's playing Purdue today. I'll pass. I got nothing nice to say about the Boilermakers, so not gonna say anything. Not gonna pick the Hoosiers today either. I just don't like the value, but it's okay. How about a blowout win for Nebraska against Oregon? Expected Northwestern victory on the road by 19 points. Washington game and a win by 10, and most recently going to Minnesota and beating them by 19 points. Yeah, Hoiberg's team just keeps on winning. I kind of thought Nebraska basketball had peaked in the decade with that Keisei Tominaga year, and how even last season with Bryce Williams carrying that team through the college basketball crown and winning the college basketball crown, but somehow Nebraska outdoes themselves this year. 20-0. Can it be 21? They do have Illinois over the weekend too. That's going to be kind of tough. I think they can keep it within 10.5 though. I know, again, talent-wise, yes, Michigan is way more stacked, way more loaded than Nebraska is, obviously. Again, we're still talking about Nebraska basketball and the Michigan Wolverines. I understand. Yet Nebraska still finds ways. Price Sanford, man. Sanford averaging 17.5 points per game this year as the junior. This latest run he's on, 28 points against Oregon, 22 points against Northwestern, 23 against Washington, 22 against the Golden Gophers. Ring Mast averaging 15. Obviously, the senior center from the Netherlands. He's been good this year scoring wise. Again, you're not going to get monster nights out of him. At least recently, we haven't seen that. But again, he's still been very productive. If I'm not mistaken, Braden Frager's out today. I'm fairly certain did not play. Sorry, got injured in the UW game. I think it's an ankle injury. Did not play the last game against Minnesota. I'm pretty confident he's out this game. I'm pretty sure I saw it somewhere. That is what it is there. I still think Nebraska is going to be fine. Obviously, Michigan, you got to deal with their big play. Yaxel Lindenberg, Adai Mara. Obviously, there's the guards too. Elliot Cadeau and company. Morez Johnson as well. I get it. Obviously, there are a lot of bigs on this team with Lindenberg, Mara, and Johnson. You got to deal with all three of those guys on the court potentially at the same time. Obviously, I understand it's a problem. Nebraska's got size. Can they deal with them? With Mass, with Sanford? Again, you'd like potentially Frager to be playing as well. It is what it is. I think Nebraska can match it. I think. We're not going to see that many points scored. That's not what Michigan... I mean, okay. We're not going to get 100 points score. We're not going to get 90. I think the way this game plays out, I think we're probably going to see a final score in the 70s. And again, I'm just not expecting 80s and 90s of points tonight. I think Nebraska can keep it within 10.5 if the final score is in the 70s. I believe so. Michigan's last game against Ohio State, I mean, a little too close for comfort. I mean, is that appropriate to say? Ohio State's winning with, 6 minutes to go? And again, Michigan pulls through. Michigan dominates the final 5 minutes of that basketball game. Ohio State's not that good. Saw them yesterday. Yeah, they beat Penn State, but very unconvincingly. I've seen Ohio State go to Seattle and get dominated by UW. Like, I'm not wowed by the Buckeyes. And again, Michigan wins. That's what good teams do. They didn't just win. They won by 12 points. Good for them. But rivalry game and you leave that team in there, I don't know. I'm not too sold on Michigan right now. Lost at home against Wisconsin. Played a competitive game at Penn State. I think that we can get a close game tonight at Nebraska. Will Nebraska win? I don't know, but I don't think Michigan, and obviously we've seen it now, Michigan's not this unstoppable force that we saw at the beginning of the year, the same team that, beat Gonzaga in the Players Era Tournament final by 40 points. Same team that, was blowing teams out left and right. They're good. I don't think they have that same dominance anymore. I think they're a little figured out. Again, the talent, undeniable. Cadeau, Luxemburg, Mara's just a freak. Dude's like 7'4". I get it. I think Nebraska's going to keep them close. Again, this is a confident bunch. It's the team that's winning. And now, again, there is a winning pattern now that's been established with Nebraska basketball dating the last 3 years. It's crazy, though. I'm going to go with the Cornhuskers. Give me the Cornhuskers on the road plus 10.5. They don't got to win. They just got to keep this in the single digits. I don't think the undefeated team's getting blown out tonight. Give me Nebraska. On to our fourth best bet of the video. We go from the Big Ten to the Big East, as we've got the Creighton Blue Jays going on the road to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to take on the Golden Eagles of Marquette. Got to go Creighton here. I don't care the game's in Milwaukee. Marquette sucks. I mean, that's just the truth. This is one of the worst Marquette teams we've seen in a minute. They are awful. Dead last currently in the Big East Conference. They don't win games. Their last game against Providence, don't get me wrong, we had Marquette. We were right. That was against a Providence team who was without their leading scorer in Jason Edwards. And if it's not for a last-second foul, 3-point shot foul at the end of regulation, Marquette loses that game again in regulation before ultimately they actually won it in overtime. It's a team that has won 2 games in the Big East so far this year by a combined 2 points. A 1-point win over Xavier and a 1-point victory over Providence. It does, Creighton does kind of feel like the team that would go in here and lose, but I don't know. I mean, Marquette earlier in the year went to Creighton, went to Nebraska, and lost by 21 points. I don't think we see that much of a flip in this game. I think Creighton is going to win this one. I know Creighton just played a competitive game and, some late game heroics. What can I say? Last play heroics for Creighton beating Xavier, right? You can't write it any better for the Blue Jays. You miss a free throw, you get your own rebound, bang, you hit a fadeaway mid-range shot to win the game. Austin Swartz did. Okay, again, can't draw it up any better. You thought you were going in overtime, you win in regulation. Okay. Too close for comfort? Sure. Game at home against Xavier is supposed to win. Yes, they find a way, whatever. You're going to play Marquette right now. If you score 90 points against Marquette, the game's probably over. I'll say that. Don't think Marquette can keep up with this team. I understand Creighton's last couple games have been very competitive. The win just recently against Xavier, the Providence game, they lost on the road by 5 points. Again, competitive game, still no Jason Edwards for Providence. That was obviously prior to the Marquette game for the Friars, but still a competitive game. We did have Providence in that spot, but it's okay. The Georgetown win for Creighton, 3-point game. Villanova win was by 4. Butler game was by 4. If I can guarantee you anything in this game, it's going to be competitive. This one's probably going to go down to the wire, I believe, but I do just think Creighton's going to have just enough to pull away in the end. Guys, this is the worst, again, we've seen Marquette in years. They don't close games well. They have a lot of games where they just can't get going scoring early, and they dig themselves into a hole. Again, they found a way to beat Providence, but I'm not going to lie to you. We had the Golden Eagles. We got bailed out. Was it a foul? Yes. Was it a stupid mistake and it shouldn't have happened if you're the Friars? Absolutely. Oh, by the way, Providence's best player wasn't playing. Marquette then goes to Indianapolis, gets blown out by Butler in their last outing. But you look at the overall body of work so far in the Big East, it has not been good. Obviously, again, I just said it earlier, 2 combined victories in the conference by 2 wins with a combined 2 points. Scored less than 70 against Georgetown. You scored 60 points the first time around against Creighton. Again, 84-63 final score the first time against the Blue Jays. You were in the 50s against UConn, 60s against St. John's up in New York. I don't trust this team. I don't trust them. They obviously didn't do much in the portal. It's just not what Marquette does. You get guys to come back on a year-by-year basis, but I don't know. I mean, they're missing Cam Jones. They're missing David Joplin. It is what it is. You're missing Stevie Mitchell. The best guys are gone, and Chase Ross and Nigel James haven't been able to fill that void. Ross is averaging 15.5 points. He has some good nights. Is he having remarkable nights? Not really. Nigel James will provide you those crazy scoring nights. 38 against Providence, 31 against Villanova, but then, last game against Butler, 15 points. Again, he averages 15 points per game, true freshman. That's what, obviously, Marquette does instead of the portal. They just get guys to come in and play 4 years here, but I don't know, man. I don't buy anything Marquette's got going on right now. Yes, the game's in Wisconsin. Fan base is at an all-time low right now. I mean, literally, again, Marquette... I don't know, man. It's just Marquette went to DePaul and got out-fanned by the DePaul Blue Demons. And, the game's at Wintrust. It's in Chicago. Yeah, that just doesn't happen. Marquette's supposed to outnumber DePaul in terms of fans. It's just intrigue and interest is at an all-time low currently for the Golden Eagles. Yeah, I got to go with Creighton here, guys. I got to take the Blue Jays on the road to win this game. Again, do they have a pure scorer that's going to drop 50 points per game for this team? Likely no. Likely no, you're not going to get a 40-point performance out of anybody, but the thing is, again, for the Blue Jays, everyone can score. Not one player is a larger threat than the others for the most part, but everyone's going to be able to put the ball in the basket, obviously. Josh Dix, leading scorer this year out of Council Bluffs, Iowa, averaging 13 points per game, just put up 19 in the Xavier victory. Austin Schwartz, again, had the game-winning shot against Xavier. The missed free throw gets his own rebound. Midi for the game, bang. Did drop 33 in the Georgetown victory a couple games ago. And then there's also Jason Green, who averages 11, just put up 26 in the Providence game. Again, not one guy you can point and say, okay, yep, you're giving us 30 tonight. You're giving us, hell, even 20 tonight. Someone, though, is always going to step up for the Blue Jays. And I have just such little confidence currently in Marquette. They're not playing good basketball. Yes, they're only 2 wins so far in the conference or at home. I understand. Still can't take them. Still can't. I got to go Creighton in the spot. Little surprised the odds aren't even further more towards the Blue Jays. But it is what it is. They are on the road. Again, winning on the road in college basketball, regardless of where you are playing, is still difficult. But I got to go with the Creighton Blue Jays picking up the victory. Creighton on the road, minus 135, giving Marquette their 9th loss in Big East play. Again, sitting alone at the bottom of the Big East standings. Only, Providence and Georgetown are in arm's reach for Marquette right now. That is something. Again, Creighton, by the way, top 4 team currently in the conference with UConn, St. John's, and Nova. Marquette dead last. Yeah, give me the Blue Jays. On to our final best bet of the video. We conclude, mentioned earlier, no better way to close a night rather than in one of these 3 conferences, the Mountain West, the WCC, or the Big West. Tonight's the Mountain West. UNLV at home against New Mexico. Obviously, Tuesdays usually Mountain West nights. We'll get more into the WCC and the Big West as the week goes on. We still have that big UCI-Hawaii game on Thursday. Don't forget about that one. Tonight, though, UNLV versus New Mexico to close the night. The UNLV Rebels are playing too good of basketball to not cover this basketball game. I think they can probably win this one. I understand New Mexico's defense is pretty good. The way UNLV's playing right now, I have quite a bit of confidence in the Rebels. Yes, they did just lose to San Diego State. San Diego State's 8-1 in the conference, with their only loss being a controversial L over at Grand Canyon in Phoenix, Arizona. I don't really care that SDSU's beating UNLV by 11 points. Doesn't really matter to me. What does matter is UNLV's victory at Utah State. Their home victory against Boise State. Those are massive. Again, San Diego State, good team. They beat them. Okay, not too concerned. Here comes New Mexico into town. A New Mexico team who is 7-2 in the conference. Their losses on the road at San Diego State and at Boise State. Look at their entire body of work on the road this season. Look where they've played. They go to Fort Collins and beat Colorado State, sure. You go to Colorado Springs and beat Air Force, expected. The two tough environments you go into play, though, San Diego, L, Boise, L. Yeah, and I understand, going to the pit, playing at New Mexico, it's a whole other game. Ask literally every team who's ever gone into the pit. It is difficult, except for some reason the New Mexico State Aggies, but that's neither here or there. Going to the pit's difficult. I understand. You don't want to play at Albuquerque. Away from New Mexico, yeah, the Lobos are all right. They're not, they're not unbeatable, obviously. We've already seen it. 7-2 in the conference. You got UNLV who's 5-3 in the conference, and a UNLV team that is continuing to gain momentum after a piss-poor, horrible start to the year. I mean, if you were to tell me back in November, or hell, even December, when this team was losing to Tennessee State at home, and this team was losing to the Montana Grizzlies at home and UT Martin at home, that I'd be picking them in January to beat a fairly solid New Mexico team, well, at the time, probably would have asked you, New Mexico without Patino, how are they doing this without Donovan Denton company? But, that's just the motto for New Mexico at this point with all their sports. They just find ways to do it, even though their main players and coaches leave. Again, shout out to Jack Lane and the New Mexico Lobos football team, but whatever. Yeah, I would have laughed, though, if you were to tell me UNLV would be in this spot and I'd be picking them here. Because, I thought they were cooked. That Tennessee State game doesn't get worse than that. You're 4-6 going into conference play. You just lost a home game to an OVC team. And oh, by the way, yeah, it's your third loss at home against a mid-major this year in bye games. Yeah. But they've always been a confusing team. Again, before the Tennessee State game that they lost, they went to the farm and beat Stanford and Palo Alto, which was just weird. But again, prior in the year, they lost to UT Martin, they lost to Montana, but then they went to Memphis and won too. They're a very tough team to get a read on. That's kind of why I like them here. I think it's a weird game that, yeah, they should be able to cover. I would not be too opposed to taking them to win the game outright, honestly. I think this is very playable for UNLV money line at plus 170. We're being given 4.5 points, though, so I will take 4.5 points, but I do think it's a playable spot. These last couple games for this team have been very inspiring. Hell, the 3-game winning streak, Boise, SJSU on the road, Utah State on the road, absolutely massive. And the Utah State victory, again, I can't rave about it more. This is a competitive game down the wire. Utah State and UNLV are going back and forth the entire game. I think the biggest lead in that game was Utah State, I think, took like a 10-point lead. They took a 14-point lead, They went on a big run, took a 14-point lead, 12 minutes to go in the second half. UNLV comes roaring back. It gets to a point where, it's a tie game with 2 minutes to go, and UNLV finds a way to pull away. More like 4 minutes to go, but UNLV pulls away. And how do they do it? Again, how about Gibbs Longhorn? Dre Gibbs Longhorn finding big shots, hitting big shots. Tyne Jones, some huge effort plays, we can say, and that's what you can again always rely on at a Jones, true freshman out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He's going to go up and try to get rebounds. He's going to put his body on the line. He is going to attack the basket very aggressively. It's what this team does. And maybe, again, the one thing I can say and why they're so confusing and why there's no pattern to this team and why, again, at the beginning of the year, they lost to UT Martin and Montana and Tennessee State. We said it earlier in the year, it's a team that has 15 new guys on it. There's not a single returning player on the UNLV Rebels this year. They had a complete, revamp of their squad, obviously, again, with the running Rebels. And here you go. Now, finally, after having 18 games together, 19 games together, it seems like something's actually being put together. As for New Mexico, again, another team that lost a lot in the portal. Obviously, their main players last season, Donovan Dents at UCLA, Nelly Jr. Joseph graduated, True Washington is now at Miami playing for the Hurricanes. Borikovic and Milikovic are now both, they followed their coach, obviously, to Xavier. Aaron Nolan graduated as well. I'm missing one player, so another big piece. Mustafa Amazil graduated as well. You lost pretty much every serviceable player on this team, too. Hell, even that Tiki Aliatiki as well, their backup center behind Nelly Jr. Joseph graduated. You lost everybody, and yet, again, like the football program, they have found a way to rebuild it. Jake Hall averaging 15 points per game this year for the for the New Mexico Lobos. And how about Tomislav Blujan, who's been massive as well. Both these guys are freshmen. Hall, freshman. Tomislav, freshman too. Hall averaging 15 points per game. Blujan averaging 12 and 10 for the Lobos. They find ways. But again, I think the biggest thing about this game is, okay, the way UNLV is currently playing and just the way New Mexico's played on the road so far in the Mountain West. They're a 2-2 road team. And does one of their wins really count? You're playing Air Force. My local high school team might have a chance to go beat the Air Force. And I say that with the utmost respect to the Air Force because, again, appreciate their service. But, I mean, New Mexico, you go to Boise, you lose by 9 points, you only score 53. It's a crappy basketball game. And, again, that's one that we had in New Mexico. It was bad. Guys, New Mexico at the end of the first half scored 19 points. And they wanted a big run to start the second half, and they just let Boise completely take it right back from them. New Mexico's up 11 points in that game in a low-scoring affair. They're up 32-21. They went on a 12 or 13-0 run to start the second half, and they still found a way to lose. They have not been impressive on the road this year, going to SDSU and losing. Competitive game, but you lose. And then, okay, again, Colorado State, congrats. Air Force, who cares? I'm going to go UNLV. And it's not like this is even money. We're still getting points on the Rebels right now. And again, the Rebels are progressively playing better and better basketball. Again, I really like Tyron Jones. Tyron Jones is going to, again, put his body on the line every single game he plays. Kamani Hamilton's played good basketball this year, averaging 12 points per game. And obviously the player on this team is Gibbs Lawhorn. Lawhorn goes from being a bench player and a player who's averaging 6 points per game over in Urbana-Champaign for the Illinois Fighting Illini to now being a 18 points per game scorer for UNLV and the guy who takes every single big shot for the squad. 33 points against Boise State in the overtime victory, 27 against SDSU. You're barely going to see him come off the court. The only thing that takes him off the court is foul trouble. He reaches quite a bit, but I think we can be pretty fine here with UNLV at home getting 4.5 points. I think just momentum's on their side and the matchup favors them as well with the Lobos coming on over to Sin City. So give me UNLV at home on the points, Rebels plus 4.5 to close the night. Folks, thank y'all for watching our college basketball best bets here on January 27th. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.